Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Press Play Lifestyle Inspired podcast, where we do interviews with interesting and inspirational people like our new friend Sue. Hi, Sue.
Hi.
For our listeners, that's you, to find the resources, tools, and support they need to be their best inspired selves. How are you today, Sue?
Hey, thank you for having me on your show. It's great, lovely to be here. I'm good actually. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so nice to meet people. I just love podcasting. I love meeting new people, hearing about people's stories. It's just it's the highlight of my day most days.
Oh,
And so it is a pleasure to meet you. I wonder if you might mind telling our audience just a little bit about yourself and what you do.
okay. So I'm Sue Orosa, and I'm a mental health and wellness coach. So I've basically merged counselling with coaching, which I absolutely love that I can do that. And I also run personal development workshops, and I have a one-day well-being retreat, and I have a couple of online programs in the pipeline as well to help manage with anxiety, negative thinking, yeah, and just personal growth and development, so we learn to love ourselves.
I love it. I love it. I
Mm.
One of the many things or many skills that you bring to the personal development world is something I've recently done more research on is EFT. And
Yes.
I have to admit, like at first I thought, well, how hokey can this be?
Yeah.
Because I come from like a very technical, very logical software development background.
Right.
And to sort of come in and it's such a wonderfully enlightening thing to see how powerful our mind really is. Like I thought the logic was the big powerful part, but
Mm.
when you open up to the other side of it, it's pretty amazing.
Mm.
And so I think for me that was a big learning. But you really seem to integrate a lot of different. You said counseling and coaching, but you also do EFT and Reiki. Do you have like a favorite technique that's just like something you really
Oh,
enjoy doing?
oh, that's a good question. Oh,
Oh,
it's like,
I
which is
got
your favorite
terrible.
child question?
I know. I was interviewing someone this morning who's a country music singer, and I was like, I know it's like asking who your favorite kid is, but we all have one. We can tell them about it. So it's
Yeah.
like, what's your favorite song? And he's like, well, I don't know my favorite of that I've written, but I'll tell you my favorite someone else wrote.
Oh.
I was like, oh.
Oh, that's a good answer. Um, so my favorite, you know, it is a good question, and I'm going to be annoying really because
No,
I
that's
can't
okay.
actually um, pinpoint because they each have their own
So that was what I was gonna
vibe.
say. Is there
And
are there specific techniques that seem to be more applicable either to
mm,
what someone's suffering with or kind of person they
yeah,
are, like that they be more open to a certain technique?
absolutely. I think generally, if somebody is more open to trying different things, then it's more perhaps likely to work, or because they're opening up to it. Just that in itself, I think. Technique wise, EFT, if you do want to go dig deep and fast, um, boy, is that going to do it for sure, for sure. And that is amazing and even I go, oh my word, wow, did that, you're really there. It's incredible. And like it may be in a few minutes sometimes, or half an hour, and the person's actually got somewhere really significant,
Yeah,
got to a
that's
real
amazing.
block perhaps, and then they might be emotional in some way, and and they're holding the space, and it's all fine, and they come through it. But that's the thing, isn't it, with EFT? It's kind of, let's see what comes up and then be with it so that it can pass through. It's just,
Yeah.
it is incredible when that happens. I'm like, yes.
Oh, this is why I'm doing this, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
So, yeah, I think that's amazing. One of the things I was trying to explain to my daughter, my oldest daughter, every day she's always like, what do you do again? And I give her like a new thing every time to try to make it make sense. But the other day I said this thing. I said it's like it's learning how to help people take their mess and turn it into their message.
Oh, nice. I love that.
But
Yeah.
one of the things that I didn't even think until I was telling her that out loud was that the word message is actually part mess and part age.
Oh, yes.
And right, it's wonderful, right?
Wow.
So I'm
Yes.
wondering, in how does one become like, well, you have so many skill sets. You're not one of those things, but how do you get
Yeah.
into this kind of work? And
Mm.
was your transition through sort of a mess to message kind of
Yes.
storyline?
Yes. Well, actually, when I look back at my past, I can't just say that it was one thing, really. I think it was an accumulation of stuff. I think also we carry our parents' ancestry stuff in our DNA. So sometimes I think, stuff happens in life, we don't know why. And actually, if we look at our family and their mess, and how much of that we might be carrying unconsciously as well. Um, Having said that, there was an incident when I was 15, which may have something to do as to why I later became a counsellor. And that was when I was walking back home from school. I arrived at home, I knocked on the door, and I saw that my mum was talking to somebody. I thought, who's this? Who's she talking to? It looks like a woman. This woman turned round, and I'm kind of exposing here quite, might be a bit shocking, I don't know, but actually the person in a wig was my dad.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I'm kind of only just beginning to tell it as my story, to own it as my story publicly,
Hmm.
because actually that is part of, one of the things that probably shaped what would be my career later on down the line. At the time, it was just a kind of small trauma, if you like. At the time, it just really sent me into confusion. And I didn't discuss it with my mom till after my dad had died. And it was fine, now it's not such a big deal perhaps, but back then it was. Um, so that was, I suppose, one bit of mess that I just kept away through secrecy and shame perhaps, and all of those things. He
Mm.
was a cross dresser, I should say. And yeah, so that was, I guess, one of the things that's kind of, I suppose, shaped, as I say. And the skill set stuff is around my wanting to learn and keep learning, and just this huge interest for the subject of personal development. And I have to, I am a bit of a courseaholic, and I have to just rein it in.
Yeah,
And
I
you
might
as
do
well.
that too. It's I know, I'm like, of all of those things, like I'm not a holic,
Yeah.
but maybe, right? It's like how could you be how is that bad? But too much of anything is not good for you, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Yes.
might have a few hundred undone finished.
Yeah. Programs and
But
books and
I love
yeah,
to learn as well. But
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I also I think when you go through something that is maybe your current logic's inexplicable for what you currently know at the time,
Yeah.
until you really finally find the thing, right? You keep
Mm,
searching in any random place, anywhere you need to be,
mm,
until you find it. And so I
yes.
think that if you spent a long time waiting for the 15-year-old event to
Yes.
unfold, then you had a lot of courses yet to sort of get to finding something that clicked, that made sense, that made it not
Yes.
confusing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And that took a long time.
I
I only
bet.
spoke about it to one of my early on partners in my early 20s, for the first time. And so that was however many years after, about 8 years after the event. It's
Yeah.
crazy. And then only when I started to train as a counsellor in my early 40s, the story came out again. Incredible, isn't it? We could be holding
Yeah.
on to that stuff for so long.
Yeah. And I always wonder, so I'm always curious too, is like it obviously had an impact on you,
Yeah.
but it had an impact on your dad and on your mom.
Yes, absolutely.
And they were living that too without
Yeah.
it being part of your family's dynamic. It was part of that
Mm.
hidden dynamic, right?
Absolutely. And it was such a shame that I didn't get to talk to my dad about it all, because he
Yeah.
died Yeah, he died over 20 years ago now. Such a shame. Yeah,
Wow, that's a long
yeah,
time. That's a long
a
time.
long time ago. Yeah, yeah, and a long time to have not spoken about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy, eh? Crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah.
But I think that I don't know what you think. I mean, as a counselor and as a coach, I think the things that we don't talk about, we bring about over and over again,
Yes. Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
or the confusion or the
Yeah.
unresolved issues or the not finishing the
Yeah.
learning, right?
Yes.
Um, I had a similar one that I just started talking about in the last few years, and it's not my story, which is also part of it. Like it's not
Yeah.
my story. It
Yeah.
didn't happen at me. But my mom told me that when she was 13, she was forced to have an abortion.
Yeah.
And until that point, my mom was going to be a nun.
Mm.
And then back then, right?
Mm.
It wasn't legal. And she was already 6 months along when they found out. So there was a lot of trauma with that whole.
Wow.
And she had the first time she'd ever told a living soul, she was in her 50s, and it was me.
Wow.
And to
Wow.
see somebody,
Yeah.
like literally, I feel like she became 13 for like a few moments and just had
Oh,
this
wow.
experience. And I thought, oh my gosh, to
Wow.
live with that
Yes.
for
Yes.
50 years, 40
Yeah.
years for
Yeah.
her
Yeah.
is a. So when you say maybe we own some of I've heard that some people say that about, owning some of your parents' stuff,
Yes.
but
Absolutely.
right.
For
So you
them.
have some stuff for
Mm.
your father, and I
Stuff for
probably
my
have some
mum.
things for my mom, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Absolutely. And my mum would have lived like yours, with that for many years. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. The shame that we hold for others in some way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
She actually asked me, like, my mom is still around, barely, but she's hanging in there. My father died last year, but she asked me to not let her story go untold because
Oh, wow.
she
Yeah.
felt like that not telling it passed it on,
Yes. Yes.
which is so weird.
Yes.
I never thought about it. I thought, oh, if you
Yeah.
don't tell it, it gets to stop. But she's like, no, if you don't tell it, it stays.
Yes. How lovely. Yes. Wonderful. Like any story of our own,
Yeah.
or any feeling, emotion, or whatever, any narrative, if it doesn't get told, it can't pass through.
Yeah.
To come to some kind of resolution in a way.
But we don't have the knowledge of the event to be able to help
Yes.
work through it. So it makes each
Mm.
generation more difficult for them
Yes.
to
Gets,
unburden because they don't
yes.
have the
Yes.
first hurt, maybe.
That's right. That's right. So it gets diluted along the way somehow.
Yeah.
Unless, I mean, there are people who are into ancestral healing, aren't they?
Yeah, there have been. And I haven't really
Yeah.
I talked to one gentleman on one of the podcasts that kind of he was more like kind of a medium
Right.
type, so he kind of
Yeah.
had some of that other lives pieces.
Yeah.
But I haven't done any of that kind of work myself at
No.
all.
No.
It sounds very complicated. You must have a little special
Yeah.
something going on
Yeah.
there.
I don't know anything about it
My
at all.
God, sounds like great fun. Sounds awful. I don't want to do that. So how
Yeah.
long so one of the things that I also noticed is you have is it a Spanish retreat? Is it in Spain or is
Yes.
it in Spanish or yes?
Yes, and yes. But not this year, unfortunately, for obvious reasons.
Yeah, for a
Mm.
few obvious reasons, but
Yeah.
you can have some of the vibe.
Yeah. So it's my cousin and I, she teaches Spanish, and I also teach yoga and mindful, very slow movement
Mhm.
kind of yoga. And our mums both have an apartment in the south of Spain, in
Oh,
Estepona. Yeah, they're Spanish. Did I say that? I can't remember. And they have, yeah, so we go and visit our mums in the summer because they go there every summer for a couple of months. So we visit, and a couple of years ago, I had the idea of should we get together and do a retreat? And it so happened that she'd also had the same idea. Um, we might as well do it, you know, blah blah blah. We thought of a way to do it, and we ran one last year, the first one, and it was lovely. Just a very small group of women. It was fantastic. We had bicycles. We did our yoga movement a few times a day. They learned some basic Spanish conversation. There were swimming pools in the complex where we held the retreats, so we could hang out there. She taught Spanish at the swimming pool, you know, outside. And we talked to the waiters in Spanish, so we could apply all the learning. Yeah, no, it was great fun.
It
Yeah.
sounds lovely. It sounds
It was
lovely. So you mentioned like I mean, it totally makes sense this would be part of your vibe, but you kind of do more of a mindful yoga.
Mm,
Is that well, I think yoga in itself is misunderstood anyway. People
yeah,
think it's
absolutely.
either spiritual only or
Yeah,
about stretching your body only, but
yes,
it's like a
yeah,
way of life, a lot of parts of that.
absolutely.
So what does mindful yoga mean to you? Like what is that? How does that uncover for you in your workshops?
Mm. So it's a way, let's say, of getting out of your head. Although you can use your imagination very much, you know, that it's about using your imagination as well. But it's a kind of embodied practice so that we get to know who we are from a different perspective, if you like. So we go inwards, and the movements are slow deliberately so that we can slow down. We use the breath and to inform the movement. And it's about really noticing and hearing what perhaps the body has been trying to express, possibly for many years. But we
Yeah.
ignore it because we're running around
Yeah.
fast, fast, fast. So yeah, it's that slow vibe. But we do use in the yoga that I teach is Scaravelli influenced, and so that it's we use the shapes of yoga, if you like, as a way through rather than being the end game. So
Ah, I
yeah, so
see.
it's
So
not
it's not you're
the
not, the
shapes.
outcome isn't
Yeah,
getting a good yoga practice in.
that's it.
The
Yeah,
yoga itself is a vehicle, maybe?
that's it. That's the word. Yeah, it's a
Okay.
vehicle for the deep stuff, the spiritual aspect, I guess.
Yeah.
Although it is, you know, really good for the body as well. It's a different kind of workout, if you like, to
Yeah,
use
it
that
sounds
word.
that's working
Mm.
out some other stuff too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's when we slow down, we know, don't we? That's when all the stuff can come up.
That's when all the icky
Mm,
stuff comes.
all the icky stuff that needs to calm. Oh, I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And
But I think that, you know, I don't know who told me recently. Maybe it was one of the other another guest, but they said we forget sometimes that pain isn't to be avoided. Pain is pain is the voice that our
yes,
body has to
lovely.
tell us to pay attention to something.
Yes.
And so if we medicate or we don't
Hmm.
stretch or we don't have like we're not in touch, we're
Yeah,
losing an entire way to communicate.
absolutely. We are so good. We're so expert at numbing pain, numbing ourselves.
Yeah.
Because who wants to feel the pain, right?
Yeah, isn't there, you may or may not know, but in the mindfulness practices, one of the initial like super scientific parts of it was
Yes.
mindfulness as a way to be in pain. It was
Yeah.
they
Yes.
actually taught people to that all the people that were in pain to the point where they stopped letting them go to the pain clinics, that there was nothing it could do. They actually created a mindfulness awareness training around um, being in pain, living within
Yes.
pain.
Yes.
And it was one of the few things that made life bearable for people who had
Incredible.
tried to push it away forever. So as around the
Yes.
time was it like the CBT training and then there was like mindfulness eating and then MBT. But the guy that started with pain
Yeah, lovely.
and it expanded from there, which was really interesting.
Absolutely. There's something about yeah, paying attention to why it's there. It's there for a reason. But there's the emotional pain as well as the physical. But
Yeah.
absolutely, I think it's particularly good for chronic pain sufferers, um, and rheumatoid arthritis, anything like that, because especially with EFT as well, you know, it's about chasing the pain. There's that aspect to it where
Yeah.
and with Gestalt therapy, which is a form of counselling, you know, it hits lots of different places, modalities. But that thing around, okay, so where's the pain? What kind of pain is it? Where is it? Feel into it.
Mhm.
Breathe into it. If your pain could say something, if it had a voice, what would it be telling you right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, and all the while you're doing that, you're slowing, you're calming the nervous system so that the rest of the body can start helping out as well.
Yeah, I think it's
Mm,
just a beautiful practice to see, like, so there'd be people who've like been running from, right, that pain
yeah.
forever, and the only way for it to actually be subsided is if you listen.
Yes, the
Right.
irony. Yes,
Yeah. And there's like, and that's like even with talk therapy, some of the others, it's
yes,
about having the voice that's crying out being heard.
yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's in the layers, right down, 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 down,
Yeah.
and it's about, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
peeling the onion
It's hard to want to feel
and
pain
stuff.
though, right? Because you're,
Oh yeah.
of course you want to get away from it. That's like,
Yes.
that's the lizard brain going, ah,
Ah,
bad stuff. Like, run.
get that, run away. Absolutely, run away.
Yeah.
So it's survival as
Yeah.
well. It's
Yep.
a
Exactly.
survival strategy to run away from it, but it's a survival strategy to have it as well,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess. Both, weirdly.
Life is complicated, right?
It is. It's not easy.
So
But
what would be your like ideal client? Because you have like so many beautiful trainings and skill sets and just ways of being in the world. Who is like, if somebody was like, oh, this is what's wrong, I should talk to Sue. What are they going through, or what's
yeah.
happening for them?
So my main demographic, if you like, has been is women, or are women, between probably around the ages of 35 to 55, or even older, 60 perhaps. Um, and they've come to a point in their life where they're thinking, right, actually, my life isn't how I would like it to be going right now. It's I perhaps they have hit a block. They're not feeling themselves. They're aware now that they have negative thinking patterns. Perhaps they're feeling anxious. They're perhaps overwhelmed, and something's got to give. Basically, something has to change, but they're not in a place where they can make decisions right now, and they need some support to come in and to kind of shed a light on what's going on and help them through.
So it would be like, if, would an example client be someone, who's obviously female in that age bracket, who's like overwhelmed, but they're not even really sure why.
Yeah,
Like, just
absolutely. They might not be.
they're just like,
Yeah.
something's not good, but I
Mm.
don't know what it is, and I don't
Yeah.
want it anymore.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Or yeah, or they've reached or they've reached a crossroads in their life.
Mm, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Mm.
So, do you have like one of your favorite stories of overcoming from a client, like a client story, or one that
Mm.
you like to tell? You can't have a favorite kid, you can't have a favorite client. You don't have to use
Yeah.
their name or anything, but just like a nice
Yeah.
story that you like to
Yeah.
share.
So there's a couple. There's one who I had, she was quite successful, had been quite successful in her own right. She was self-employed, working with a partner in the fashion industry. And she had suffered for many years from depression. She's quite out about it. She talks to people about it and owns it as her story for her stuff. And she wanted help because not only with the depression, but at the same time, she needed to pull away from that particular business she was in. And she wasn't quite sure how to go about it. And she'd been round the circles for ages trying to mull it over. There was interpersonal issues with the partner that she was in business with, but she just didn't know what to do beyond that. And she had a calling, like a heart-centered calling, to do something different with her life, but she just did not have a clue what it was. And so together we got to the stage where she was able to successfully negotiate a way out of that business partnership and away from that business into a place where she was able to explore, because as it transpired, because of her depression and her exhaustion, she was being told by her doctor and her husband and her friends that actually what she needed was a break. And it was apparent that she needed some time out, she needed rest. And in that space, that's when we actually did the best work, of no surprise, I guess. And now she's in a space where she is running her business. It's amazing. She's running a business where she can help women with their personal development, personal growth, confidence issues, but using her what was it called now? Wardrobe. It's somebody who helps with wardrobe and how you look, with clothes and
Like image or stylist or
stylist.
something.
Yeah. So she uses what she already knows, but has actually turned around to do something that really is more heart driven for her. It's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds so
So
lovely. Yeah.
yeah, that's
One of the
cool.
things, it sounds like I think a lot of us that are in coaching kind of start with our mess or our struggle and our
Yeah,
message. So it sounds like she took her things she was struggling with and brought
yeah,
it together. But what
incredible.
I do find is often the pivot occurs in the pause, right?
Yes, beautiful. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
that moment in the middle where you go,
yes,
okay, I don't know the
oh,
answer, but I'm gonna
yes,
accept I don't know and just
yes,
pause and be here in
yes,
this moment.
beautiful.
And
Yes,
that's what you said, right? Your client, it
that's
was
it.
in that break, in that space that she could think,
Yes,
could see beyond.
yes,
So I love that.
absolutely.
That
I
the
call that the sweet spot.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like it. I call it
and
embracing my pause.
oh, nice. I like that.
Yeah, it's like trying to find like, oh, everything feels crazy. Oh,
Yeah,
that means I need to slow down,
yes,
find my pause,
that's it.
and then it seems that in that moment of stillness, you can find where the pain is, right? Or you can find what the
Yes,
messages are, and you can maybe
absolutely.
navigate through what you're in
Yes,
to a
yes,
better outcome in the end.
absolutely, absolutely.
It's cool. And you have like all these wonderful skill sets that you can use for that, right? The yoga
Yes,
for pause and Reiki and
yes. And
like
so what we can
beautiful.
do, yeah, in those sessions is to negotiate, okay, we've got these tools, what should we use today? Because we can contract for a variety of things.
Yeah.
And so sometimes they might just want to sit with a stone in their hand to be grounded, and then we'll do more counseling kind of stuff. And then that might merge into more coaching if they're ready. It just depends what's needed, and each person is different. I've done Reiki, yes, as part of coaching package or session,
Yeah.
EFT,
Yeah.
and the body movement stuff now. I'm integrating more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think what's beautiful about your unique qualities are, I'm very careful to say I'm a certified coach. I have
yeah,
lots of different practices of coaching, but it matters, right? Like I
yeah,
deal with how to get you from this moment in the present to where you want to be. But I
yes,
don't try to find out if your mom caused it, right?
yeah,
I don't go in I'm not trained to see
yes,
what worth issues you had or belonging or whatever it
yeah,
is in the past.
yeah,
Whereas you're able to pivot either forward or
yeah,
back
yes,
depending on
yes,
what the client needs because you
yeah,
have that training of as a therapist, as a counselor.
yeah,
They're trained to deal with, childhood
yes.
issues or traumas or things like that.
And at first, well, 'cause I was a counsellor for many years first, and then
Yeah.
transitioned into coaching. But I love counselling so much that for me, it was never really going to be either or. But
Yeah.
it was a way, it was kind of, well, how do I merge these together without it all becoming a bit messy? How does that work? And I guess that's still an ongoing process, seeing what works and how to market that, so people understand what I'm about. Because I think it's hard for me to do one without the other now.
Well, yeah, because you have that, you're able to pivot
Yeah.
and attend to what needs attending for someone. Now,
Yeah.
so I would ask the question then, because you're uniquely skilled on both disciplines, what would you suggest people are careful about, like if they're looking for a practitioner,
Mm.
and where you go, what you should consider someone who has a therapy background if this is happening? Like, are there areas that you personally are like, no, consider that might not be the best choice for you?
For somebody who wants to.
So if they don't know if they should be talking to a
Okay.
coach or a therapist, because
Okay.
you're unique because you do both. Usually
Yeah.
people are therapy or coach.
True. So sometimes people don't know what coaching is, or they don't know what counselling is.
Yeah.
And so they could turn up for coaching, and actually the issues that keep coming up for them and that keep getting in the way of them moving forward might indicate actually maybe a counselling intervention might be better.
Okay.
And we will contract for either doing both or more one or whatever,
Yeah.
if I'm the right person for them as well, because I might not be.
Yeah. So I know tons and tons of coaches. If I have a coach friend that's like, oh, I think this person really needs the next level support, could they approach you if the client was open to it and maybe refer them into someone else that has that skill set?
Absolutely, from coaching to
Yeah.
counselling. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they could.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you'd like to just kind of tell the audience or share with them about you or what you do or how to find you?
Well, they can find me on Facebook. On Sue, I have a page which is Sue Orosa, and I also have a Facebook group, a private group, and that group is for support, for tips, for we do like a mental health check-in day, for example, how you're doing kind of thing. There's also a subgroup of that, which I've just started during lockdown, which is a free, again, like a kind of group coaching / support group within that. And we do challenges, and I put videos out, do lives and stuff about different areas of mental health and personal development. So there's that. And there's my website, www.sueorosa.com, and I'm on Instagram as well.
Yeah, you're everywhere you want to be, right? It's beautiful. Well, we'll make sure that we have all of your contact information in the show notes so that people are able to find you if they're looking for your unique combination of skill sets, or if you just resonated with them and they're looking for some support. And I love that you have kind of a lockdown sort of check-in day, so hopefully people will take advantage of that support if they're feeling they need it during this time. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's really, really lovely to be on here and enjoyed our conversation. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, let's stay in touch, okay, Sue?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.